Greetings, all you Nestors out there. Welcome to Undeclared Bajor, a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch, Season 2. My name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
That's me.
Today we're going to recap, discuss, and rate Season 2, Episode 25. Wow. Tribunal. Alternate title, The Tryon of O'Brien.
No, okay, yeah. I'll give you that.
A quick note on spoilers, in case our rewatch is your first watch. Expect full spoilers through this episode, but only an appropriate minimum of minor spoilers for later in the series. Nothing too big, like the one where a transporter accident creates Bashodo. I like that joke because I can use it dozens of times with different combinations.
Yep. No, it should have been like, O'Brien Shear, because like they're both just humans, so it just like
Right.
it's barely noticeable.
It's just like a human who kind of looks like O'Brien and kind of looks like Bashir.
Yeah, exactly.
This episode originally aired June 5th, 1994. It was written by Bill Dial, or Dial, I forgot where we landed on that, with special guest writer Franz Kafka, and directed by Avery Brooks.
Yeah, first thing he directed for Star Trek.
Yep. Yeah, that's directed by Avery Brooks. That's like a big thing.
Yeah.
I mentioned Franz Kafka because Franz Kafka wrote the story The Trial.
The Trial, yeah.
Which is just another word for tribunal.
I like in the in the Memory Alpha article, it doesn't quote anybody working for the show as mentioning the trial. There's just a bullet point that says the plot clearly takes inspiration from the novel The Trial by Franz Kafka.
Right. I've never read it, but I know it's about a guy who goes on trial and he's never told what he's on trial for.
Yeah, apparently the man being prosecuted and the audience never find out.
Yep. I was almost going to call it Kafka-esque, which is kind of a Breaking Bad reference. Because there's an episode where Jesse learns the word Kafka-esque and then attempts to use it in a sentence later on.
Oh, okay.
You just gotta... Breaking Bad fans, no, don't worry. Anyway, so let's dive into this episode. You rolling a die over there?
Yeah, that was an accident, but yes, that did happen.
Did you get a good roll?
No, it was a 4 on a D20.
Oh, lame. We open in Ops, with Chief O'Brien driving his colleagues crazy, trying to bring them up to speed for his upcoming vacation, which I hate having to do this.
Sure.
It's like, make sure your backup knows your work. It's like, I always hate to be like, hey, you want to be my backup and do my work while I'm gone? He's dressed in a fashion style I would describe as middle school awards ceremony. But he's got a snazzy, like, royal blue tunic thing, which just looks like a regular collared shirt from a distance. And then a belt that goes all the way around the outside of his pants, which is a little weird.
You know, what are belts for, really?
And the belt has a fanny pack on the back, which I don't get the point of that, but that seems problematic in several ways, but whatever.
You paid way more attention to O'Brien's wardrobe in this episode than I did, clearly, because I didn't notice any of these things.
I don't know. I was just like, what is this outfit? And I have more to say about O'Brien's wardrobe later.
Okay.
So finally, Miles takes off down the turbo lift, and they think they're finally rid of him, but he pops back up in a humorous little, like...
Yeah, he somehow gets the turbo lift to stop with just his head showing. I don't know what order you have to give it to make that happen, but...
This nice little, like, prairie dog shot where he's like, hey, don't forget this one last thing. Okay, bye. And then the turbo lift goes back down, like, humorously. As O'Brien hurries through the promenade to meet Keiko for their trip, he bumps into a man with a pretty good mustache. Kind of like, almost Tom Selleck-esque. But, yeah, poor man's Tom Selleck.
Discount Tom Selleck, sure, yeah.
At first, Miles continues on without taking much note of the man, and the whole episode nearly doesn't happen, I guess. But after he's walked 15 feet or so, Miles recognizes him as his old Rutledge shipmate, Boone. They catch up briefly, and Boone mentions that he's been living on one of the Federation colonies in the DMZ, Which that's just immediately a red flag, in my opinion. But
oh, you're a Maquis. I got it.
yeah,
I mean, he's not, but
right. But O'Brien's like, well, yeah, cool seeing you, but I'm late for my vacation, so I gotta go. Bye. And then Boone goes off to a dark room and starts playing a recording of his conversation with O'Brien as sinister music plays. So it's a good thing that sinister music is playing. Otherwise, I'd be like, is this guy like a recording obsessive or something?
he just records everything.
But now we know he has a plan. He's doing something bad.
Who does this guy remind me of? He's got like maybe like a Mr. Feeney thing going on. I don't
know. Hard to tell. I'm sticking with my poor man's Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
So on their way to their vacation aboard a runabout, Miles is reading technical manuals, much to Keiko's annoyance. So Miles calms her by playing some soothing zither music and giving her some romantic kisses on the eyeballs. This seems to do the trick, and they begin trying to puzzle out the logistics of runabout sex. However, they are both blue-balled when the computer announces an approaching Cardassian ship.
I feel like, have we not established that there's like beds in these things?
I swear, I mean, I feel like we saw the beds. Like, there was that Next Gen episode, right?
Well, they didn't have runabouts in the Next Generation, but, I feel like we've seen the beds. I feel like it was mentioned that there were beds in these runabouts, but maybe I'm crazy.
I swear we've at least seen them. Wasn't there that? Didn't we talk about this where there was the episode where the time?
Yeah, there was a shuttle that had like the big thing in it, but it was like the reason it came up was because it was like that set was repurposed for something else in this show.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't that like they were in a runabout in that episode.
I mean, there's beds like right back there, but they're little bunk beds also. So yeah, maybe you don't want to mess with that. But they get a call from Gul Evek, who tells them to stop and wait to be boarded. And then he's like, "Oh hey, how's that Vol situation?"
He's just like, "We've spoken before," and
right.
It's like, okay, thanks for reminding us, I guess.
Yeah, very important to the plot of this episode.
Yeah, no relevance to anything else.
He's like, O'Brien's like, Gul Evek, the Cardassian Vol expert? He's like, I am not a Vol expert. I'm just a guy that you called. Anyway.
It was just the first number in the book under Cardassian.
Yeah. It's like, if you need to call the Cardassian, like somebody left behind like a prank note that was like, if you need to call the Cardassians about anything, call Gul Evek.
He will 100% help you out. Or at least make fun of you.
So Evek and some Cardassians beam over and arrest O'Brien for some unspecified crime.
Okay, so given what we know from the end of the episode, that it's all like some crazy evil plot, I was just like, so did they select O'Brien because he called and talked to Evek that one time, and Evek is like in charge of this thing, or like how did that?
Much about this is very hard to make track because this robbery must have taken place. I mean, it apparently took place before. Okay, he bumped into the guy who stole his voice,
right?
And then he left. He seems to have left like immediately with Keiko.
Well, yeah. I mean, he walks down to the runabout, however far that is. Presumably, they have some sort of pre-flight checklist, and then they take off. So yeah.
But the robbery took place obviously between when he bumped into that guy.
Yep. And
when he left, because otherwise they'd be like, well, this robbery just took place like after he left. It couldn't have been him. Well,
and the robbery couldn't have taken place before or after he left because the stuff was beamed into the runabout. So
yeah, we learn, which that's not quite clear. Like two Cardassian guys just go in the back and they come back and they just kind of like nod at Gul Evek.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they knew what they were looking for, so that's all they needed. But yeah,
so yeah, it's very weird. They must have just planned this whole thing out. Like, I mean, you'd think they'd have a better way to get samples of his voice for one. Like they would have gotten those way in advance.
Yeah, didn't they record that call with Gul Evek? I thought they recorded everything.
It's like, we're just like, welcome to the Cardassian call-in line. Your call may be recorded for quality assurance. Yeah. Much about this doesn't make sense. I have a feeling... one of my notes is, I have a feeling that Gul Dukat was not involved in this stupid plot. But
Gul Dukat told that chick about about Cisco.
Right. Supposedly.
Yeah.
I mean, he may tell everybody about Cisco. Who knows?
He's just going around like, oh, you won't believe this guy. He's like in my office and stuff.
He's like, this guy who has my old office. Oh my gosh, he drives me crazy. What was her complaint about him again? Like,
no, I don't think it was even a complaint. It was just like
he was like proud to own up to it.
I thought she was just like, yeah, Gul Dukat told me about you, and he's like, yeah, I bet he did. And then he gives her like the thing. He's like, and if you think that's a threat. It was. And she's like, yep, you sure do live up to your reputation. Okay. And he's like, yeah, I do. Yeah.
Whatever that reputation may be. So they read O'Brien the Cardassian Miranda rights, which are, you can remain silent, but we'll take it as a sign of your guilt.
Yeah. It's like everything about the Cardassian jurisprudence system is just like, whatever you think is fair about the U.S. system, it's the opposite of that.
Right. It's like every single thing puts you on a road to execution. Miles tries to resist, but they hit him with a phase disruptor shot and beam away. Keiko they let go home.
Yep.
And at this point they say, while they're arresting him, they say, take him to Central Prison on Cardassia Prime. Within clear earshot of Keiko.
Yeah, that was good.
So Miles is taken to Cardassia Prime, a planet of fang-like spires and big screen TVs everywhere. Which, is this the first time we've seen this, like, matte painting, like, montage of people going and watching TV on all the big public big screen TVs?
First time we've seen Cardassia Prime at all, according to the wiki.
Okay, I thought so. I swear multiple times we see these exact same shots of people, like, gathering around the TVs.
Yeah, they just use that and replace what's on the TV every time.
Right. That's economical TV making right there. So O'Brien ends up in a dark room with, like, a bright light on a robot arm moving back and forth. And then in a scene slightly reminiscent of True Lies, a man with a deep, sexy voice tells O'Brien to take off his clothes. And he's like, no, dance. No, dance sexy. But O'Brien just says his name and rank over and over. So they just grab him and slice his clothes off. And then we get another glimpse of that famous everyman body that we're supposed to admire so much or whatever.
And then, like, they have the nozzle scan him or whatever, and then they give him some new clothes.
Yeah. They shoot a laser into his eyeball. They cut off a lock of his hair. They pull out a tooth.
Yeah. The tooth thing was harsh.
Yeah, I mean...
But it becomes integral to the plot later, so...
Yeah, in a way that makes no sense, but we'll get to that. So once all this is done, a Cardassian lady walks in and objects to his treatment. Of course, after it's already happened.
Yeah, well, she's like, has he been processed? And they're like, yeah. And then she's like, okay, well, now I can object. Although, really, what she's objecting to is the fact that he, like, got that punch in the face when he was trying to resist. True. Which, honestly, like, you are now on Cardassia Prime. You've been put in this room. There's, like, 3 guys here. And as they try to put him in the chair, now he's like, I'm going to punch one of you and try to get away. I was like, where do you think you're going to go at this point?
It's like they say, if you're in a foreign country and some guys jump out and try to kidnap you, you got to fight them right there.
Yeah.
You can't get in the car with them and fight them later. That's not going to work.
The time to fight back was before you dropped the shields on your ship. That was the one chance that you had.
Yeah. I mean, the runabout might have been in, like, vacation configuration or something with no, like, weapons, but... Or at least, like, try to warp away or something. Like, try to get back to Deep Space Nine as soon as possible. So the lady provides him with some new clothes that are in a style I shall dub Cenobite chic. You know those guys from...
I know who the Cenobite are. I've never watched those movies, so I don't really know anything about them.
So she introduces herself as Mock Bar, I think was her name, and explains that to him that he's here to be on trial, although she can't tell him what for.
She could, she just doesn't.
Right, yeah, she's not allowed to. Or she's not supposed to, or something. But don't worry.
Yeah, you're right. She's like, it's not permitted, or something like that.
Don't worry, he's got the best lawyer on the planet, which Man, that's a sad state of affairs.
Well, I mean, given the purpose of their whole
right
justice system, then yeah, he's the best guy for the job.
Sure. Back on DS9, Keiko complains to Sisko that the Cardassians are probably torturing Miles as they speak. Sisko tries to distract her from that idea, but Odo is like, oh yeah, they're totally torturing him.
He's like, yeah, standard procedure. And she's like, look, he told me about like all the horrible things that happened during the war and the crap the Cardassians did, and that's like the one thing that he doesn't want. Right. And now they're doing that. And Sisko's like, well, yeah, but I mean, we sent the Enterprise to the DMZ, so...
The Enterprise fresh off of its all good things adventure.
Mm-hmm.
It probably like right as Picard sits down to play in that poker game. they're like, Miles O'Brien has been captured and taken to Cardassia. It's like, what? We must avenge him. It's like, prepare to unleash hell. So yeah, they get a call from Makbar. Sisko is understandably angry about the situation. Makbar reminds them what we learned from Dukat several episodes ago. The trial is only for show. He's already been found guilty and he's going to be executed. But Keiko can come watch if she wants, but only Keiko. Odo volunteers to be O'Brien's advisor, or Nestor.
Yep.
Which luckily he can do thanks to his many years of reluctantly working with the Cardassians and testifying in their show trials.
Yeah, it's like he had to be an officer of the court so he could testify in these trials. And these trials that we've now established are like, they make a decision beforehand and the trial is just to show how awesome they are.
Yeah. Good going, Odo. Sisko orders Kira to start an investigation into what O'Brien's been up to. And then she tells him, hey, I hate to say this, but Chief O'Brien is pretty notoriously racist against Cardassians. Maybe he did do something bad. In Cardassian jail, O'Brien is visited by his lawyer, who has no interest in actually helping him or arguing for his innocence, since the trial is just for show. What his actual job is remains something of a mystery, despite his attempts to explain it.
Yeah, it's not real clear. You would think that his job was to like get Miles to like, you know, give up or whatever, right, and show. But then they established later that that's Odo's job.
Yeah.
To like, you know, encourage him to do what's right or whatever. So like, well, why is this guy here?
Yeah, I don't know. From what I can tell in the episode, he's something akin to a rodeo clown or something. I don't know.
The best line is as he's leaving and O'Brien's like, have you ever won a case? And he's like, winning isn't everything.
Yeah. He's like, winning isn't everything. Force field back on. Run away. So on Deep Space Nine, Sisko and crew discover that a bunch of photon warheads are missing from the weapons locker. Someone like replaced them with a bunch of scrap iron or something.
Which I don't know why. Like they're like, oh yeah, the sensors didn't detect it because they replaced it with this stuff that's like the same weight and made of the same stuff. But I was like, but if O'Brien's like voice had to be used to allow permission to do this in the first place, then why did you need to replace them to hide the? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how this heist is supposed to have taken place. Did he go in there and then transport them from there?
Yeah, or you know, but you'd have to be a transporter expert, they say.
Yeah, exactly.
So
only a transporter expert could transport something in and out at the same time, I guess. It seems O'Brien was the one who accessed them, as they have his voice recording thing.
Yep.
Bashir takes this moment to vigorously defend O'Brien's character while mentally calculating how long he should wait before moving in on Keiko. I imagine he settles on something like 3 days or something like that.
Kira is always very eager to, like, especially like any Starfleet officer or human, very eager to like throw them under the bus. Yeah.
Even you think she'd be on his side because, you know, Cardassians are involved, but so they wonder how the Cardassians. Someone asks, like, how did the Cardassians know about this before we did? And then Sisko says, "That's the one question I want to know the answer to."
The only one.
Then he lists several more questions he wants to know the answer to and orders an investigation of any possible Maquis members who have been on the station lately.
Which is not standard operating procedure to know about Maquis members who are on your station.
Yeah, maybe Odo needs to have some policies regarding that. It's like, hey, if anybody ever comes visiting from those like colonies, maybe let's keep an eye on them.
That's profiling. Profiling is wrong.
Sure. Miles in his cell gets a visit from Odo, and we have a nice little acting scene between the two of them. So, Miles has a nice little monologue where he's like, I've never been accused of a crime, and I can't let my daughter see me this way. And then Odo's like, trust me, many good innocent men have been accused of crimes. It's nothing to be ashamed of, or whatever.
Yeah, there's a great bit in the thing where a reviewer says, Avery Brooks gets a great performance out of Colomini, one that makes you realize just how wasted his talents had been on The Next Generation. It really does stand up well with Patrick Stewart's performance in Chain of Command Part 2.
Yeah, I was thinking during the episode, like, I think O'Brien and Odo both did pretty good jobs, especially in that scene.
Oh, Cardassia Prime had appeared on Next Generation in that same set of episodes. That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Oh, was it the same like matte painting and everything, or
that? I don't know. It just says this is the first appearance of Cardassia Prime on DS9. It had previously appeared on the Next Generation, so that's okay.
But we didn't even learn the planet was named Cardassia Prime until a few.
That's true. Oh, and this actually specifies, I found another one, Robert Stromberg of Illusion Arts Inc. created the matte painting of Cardassia Prime for this episode.
Oh, okay. Back on Deep Space Nine, Dax analyzes the voice recording of O'Brien entering the weapons locker and determines that it's a fake! Kira identifies a likely suspect. Boone.
Way to make a reference to something that hasn't happened yet.
Possibly the most famous moment in Deep Space Nine history. But the trial of O'Brien begins in front of a jury of what seems to be like 3 kids or something.
Yeah, they're never given much like focus, so I don't know what's going on over there in that corner of the room.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows how these trials work. Keiko is given the chance to testify against Miles, but basically tells the judge to go fuck herself.
Yeah. Well, she says, I am not going to testify against my husband, and that's that. So.
Right. Odo asks for the opportunity to confer privately with Miles, and the judge says, technically, Odo's not even supposed to talk or really participate in the trial.
Which does not stop him from doing it for the rest of the trial.
But she allows it, despite her objection that it makes for bad TV.
It's like, you should have done this before coming in here. This is bad TV.
We're trying to put on a show here. Come on.
Quiet conversations are not what makes good viewing.
Half of a show trial is the show.
Yep. It's right there in the name.
Odo tries to introduce the new evidence found by Dax, but it is met with heavy resistance by both the judge and the defense lawyer.
Yep.
Odo...
he keeps trying to quit because he's like, this is not...
Yeah. This is the best lawyer on Cardassia. Don't forget. Odo then tries for a change of venue, pointing out correctly that no crime was actually committed in Cardassian territory. In fact, this is completely a crime against the Federation, it seems like.
Well, in Bajoran space.
That took place in Bajoran space.
So, yeah. I mean, you could argue either the Bajorans or the Federation should be prosecuting this.
Yeah.
The Cardassians... I mean, and he wasn't even flying to Cardassian territory with these weapons, so it's just like...
Right.
They really had no business here at all.
Yeah. So Sisko and Kira bring in Boone, who plays dumb. Sisko orders him held for further questioning without actually accusing him of crime or giving him any kind of due process.
I mean, okay, now that I think about it, honestly, like, there's no proof that a crime was even actually committed, because, like, Sisko could be like, oh, no, yeah, I told O'Brien to take those. And then it would be like, okay, well, then what are we doing here?
Yeah, from the Cardassians' point of view.
Yeah, from their point of view.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if I was Sisko, I would definitely be worried that a bunch of warheads got stolen.
No, yeah, absolutely.
I don't think I'd be like, oh, yeah, let's just let that go.
Since he's confident that it was not O'Brien after, what Dax finds, then he could just be like, oh, yeah, no crime. Except that now the Cardassians have grabbed one of our runabouts and taken our warheads. So really the Cardassians are the guilty ones.
The Cardassians have stolen our weaponry. This is an act of war. Enterprise, engage.
Yep.
So Bashir goes into the infirmary, but the lights are broken or something. He is ambushed by a shadowy member of the Maquis, who are apparently now ninjas. The Maquis man says that Boone is not one of them. Then Batman's out of the scene and turns the lights back on.
Yep.
At O'Brien's trial, Golovec gives testimony that someone told him that O'Brien was smuggling weapons to the Maquis.
A reliable source.
A reliable source. Odo objects and attempts to cross-examine, but he gets no more information. Also, apparently, this is the longest trial in Cardassian history.
In Cardassian history, yeah, because the result's always known beforehand. There's no reason to go multiple days. I don't know why they're doing it now.
Well, I mean, you think they'd, if it's a show trial, they'd want to put on, like, a good show.
Yeah, but still, like, if you're like, the show has to be under an hour or people start, like, lose interest. So,
and we gotta cut out time for commercials. It's a whole...
Yeah. If they had just, done a quick trial, which no one was stopping them from. Odo was trying to, but there's no reason you have to listen to Odo. Uh-huh. So if they'd just done a quick trial and executed him, then Cisco wouldn't have had time to show up with Boone, and everything would have been fine.
Yeah,
for them. I mean, not for O'Brien, clearly.
But I'm pretty sure the idiot squad of the Cardassian government is behind this whole plan. So,
yeah.
So they drag Boone into the infirmary, where Cisco informs him that he's going to undergo an invasive, non-consensual medical examination. Fourth Amendment? Never heard of it. Get on the fucking table.
Well, I mean, yeah, we've established there's no HIPAA, there's no
right.
there's no anything.
What a wonderful paradise the Federation is. Although this is a Bajoran station.
Yeah, well, it's a Bajoran station, and that guy doesn't even live in the Federation. He lives in the Cardassian side of the demilitarized zone, so he has no rights here. It's fine.
It's like, yeah, we're gonna take your PHI and and do a warrantless seizure on you.
We're gonna send you to Space Gitmo, and
yeah. So O'Brien takes the stand in his own trial, where his lawyer asks him if he was ever abused or slapped around by Keiko or something.
I do love that he's like, no, I'm not going to testify. And they're like, yeah, you don't have an option.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to not testify. And I'm like, well, what are they going to do? Kill you?
Yeah, for real. So then the judge asks him about his record of killing Cardassians in the war and his objection to the treaty. And then O'Brien is basically like, yes, they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell.
Well, that's not fair. What happens is, like, she says a quote that they found from him, right. And she's like, is that an accurate quote? And he doesn't want to answer that, but then they're like, no, you have to answer. And so he's like, okay, since you say I have to, I guess I will answer. Right. Yes, that is an accurate quote.
I like my reference better. Which is a movie that came out 2 years after this episode. So it was not inspired. His lawyer tries to surrender the case at this point. He's just like, oh, you know what? Can we please just give up now? But O'Brien stands up and defiantly refuses to concede and proclaims his innocence and just broadcasts his general dislike of the Cardassian Empire. But then suddenly the door opens and Cisco walks in accompanied by Boone. Suddenly the judge is like, you know what, Mr. O'Brien? You seem like a nice enough guy. Let's just forget the whole thing. You're free to go. You're
totally guilty, but I'm going to be a nice guy. And
this is when the defense attorney realizes that all his attempts to lose the case have failed, and he will now be killed.
Yeah, that's how you know it's a good system, is at the end, when the lawyer realizes that he's managed to not lose the case, and he's like, oh no, they're going to kill me now.
On the ride home, Cisco wraps the whole thing up by explaining that Boone was replaced by a Cardassian imposter after Setlik 3, and then they did an extensive reconstructive surgery to make him look human, but couldn't replace his tooth. Also, he was such a crappy imposter that he was immediately detected by his wife and Starfleet.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I don't remember them actually saying this, but in his wiki article, it's like, yeah, so he was surgically altered to infiltrate Starfleet. Shortly after, he was discharged from Starfleet for failing several crew performance reviews.
No, they said that in the episode.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't in that
like,
scene.
wait,
it was in an earlier scene. It was like after he got back from Setlik 3, like he immediately, his performance went way down and he had to be fired from Starfleet.
Okay. Yeah. The part about his wife, it's like, yeah, she recognized that something was different about him, and so he's like, okay, I'm going to leave you.
Yeah. So their imposter technology is not that great. And so, okay,
you can only do so much with surgical alteration. You can't make you know what that guy was like to his wife.
I'm just trying to figure out this tooth thing. Because do Cardassians and humans just have very similar teeth?
Yes.
Because, like, wouldn't he notice that he had Cardassian teeth rather than just a missing tooth?
They both have molars, apparently, and I don't know that they ever use like tooth prosthetics on the Cardassians, and you see their teeth when they talk, so they must be extremely similar to humans.
Okay, I guess so. I guess that was just like the very first thing Dr. Bashir did was like say and the guy opens his mouth. He's like, he's missing a tooth.
Yeah, and then they took his DNA and were like, hey, this is Cardassian DNA, which seems like the much easier and more accurate approach.
And he's like, and he has gonorrhea. Posted on the public bulletin board.
Right, yeah.
So anyway, yeah. The trial was never about O'Brien, but was an attempt to show that the Maquis had Federation sanction as an excuse to call for the disbanding of the border colonies. And for some reason they tried shoddily framing an innocent man instead of going after the actual Maquis, which includes many Starfleet officers and is led by a former Starfleet officer.
Yep. Okay, so random side note.
Okay.
In Boone's article on Memory Alpha, there is under the Apocrypha. This is the only time I remember having seen this. It's like Boone has a card in the Star Trek customizable card game, then there's where it describes him as an engineer. And so, of course, I had to pull up the card, which is yes, it is from the which expansion is this? Blaze of Glory expansion. And it does have him as an engineer, and he's got like an infiltrate. He's a Cardassian personnel with an infiltration icon for the Federation, so you can infiltrate.
Okay, interesting. I do not remember that card.
No, there's also this, and the thing about the Trek CC website where you can find all the cards is that they've got a bunch of like fan-made expansions too, so I don't know if there's another Boone card from the All Good Things expansion, which is a Federation one, and it's got an alternate universe icon on it, so I guess this is actual Raymond Boone, the dead guy
from the alternate universe where he didn't die.
Yeah, and he's also an engineer. Attributes all +2 if with Miles O'Brien or Benjamin Maxwell, so there's that.
Wow. So yeah, Sisko tells O'Brien that he got his hotel reservation extended and sends him off to have a nice vacation with no baggage and still wearing his Cenobite suit, which Keiko seems kind of into. The end.
Yeah, he's been wearing that for days.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe they have multiple Cenobite suits.
Also, they're going to just drop them off and then head back to the station. And I'm like, well, how are they going to get home then?
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I guess they got their runabout back and everything, too.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, they said they were going to send Keiko home, so I just kind of assumed they dropped the runabout off with Keiko, but...
okay, yeah, that makes sense. Have Keiko fly it home or whatever. Because I was thinking, it's like, well, then they must have flown there in a runabout to pick him up. But yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Okay, so some things about this episode. I was wondering if... like this whole thing about like a big televised trial might have been inspired by the OJ trial, but that murder didn't even happen until a week after the episode aired.
Oh, okay.
In fact, it happened the night that the season finale aired.
Oh, that's very prescient of them.
Maybe they were watching Deep Space Nine that night.
Could be. Seems unlikely. It could be. Yeah. She and her boyfriend rush home so they don't miss the Deep Space Nine episode.
or she and her waiter who was giving her glasses back, or whatever was going on there.
Hey, I've heard the whole Chris Rock comedy bit about OJ. I know what was going on.
That's the official story. Also, okay, so there's a scene where where she's like, hey, didn't you pack the camera? And he was like, no, why would I? She's like, well, you said you would last night in bed. He was like, what? I didn't say anything in bed last night. I was like, oh, is this a clue? No,
it's just some married people banter.
He just offers to grab the camera in his sleep. Oh yeah, okay. I forgot to bring this up in the recap. But they say they're taking Miles to Central Prison on Cardassia Prime, right in front of Keiko. And then Keiko goes back to Deep Space Nine, and they're like, we have no idea where on Cardassia Prime he is.
Well, maybe she forgot that part. It was a very emotional moment.
Yeah, that's true. It was a stressful situation. I'll let her have it, I guess. Yeah. So, you got any more good trivias over there?
Yeah. Hold on. There's a couple interesting things in here.
I have a few notes, but we'll see if we have any more of this fun stuff first.
The original title was Dark Tribunal, and I guess it just changed to Tribunal.
Huh.
I don't know which one of those is better, but
I think regular Tribunal is better.
It's fine.
Dark Tribunal it sounds like satanic or something. I don't know.
Oh, the courtroom set is a redress of another set on the show. Can you guess which set?
Okay, let me think. I was admiring that set. Okay, so it's got a table and a big high thing. I would have to guess it's probably Quarks.
It is the Holosuite set.
Oh, okay.
And so there's interesting stuff in here about Avery Brooks and his directing, although it all seems to be based off of statements from his first assistant director, B.C. Cameron.
Okay.
Who first it has B.C. Cameron. I'm not sure if that's a male or a female person, but whatever, saying like it was kind of hard to work on this episode because Avery Brooks was very closed and he wouldn't really share a lot of information. And then later there's a longer section where it's like this difficulty came to a head when they were working on one particular scene. And so Cameron says, hey, he called me aside in Quark's bar. It was pitch black in there because we weren't shooting in there. So it was dark, and I went in, and he was like, I want to make sure you're getting make sure I get what I need. I want you to make sure I get what I need, is what Brooks says. And he says, it's kind of difficult because I come to ask you questions, and then you act like you don't want to tell me things or that I'm bothering you. And then Brooks says, I guess you don't understand my sense of humor. And Cameron goes, to be honest with you, sir, I'm not sure you have one. And then he says... And he kind of reared back his shoulders, turned around, a little half grin came on his face, and he was like, what is it that you want to know? And he's like, I'd like to know when you have a scene in your mind to tell us what you want. And then Brooks is like, come with me. And then he like proceeds to tell Cameron like the exact camera moves and blocking and everything he has in mind for the scene. And it says instructions which Cameron extremely appreciated.
Nice. So, yeah.
So I guess all's well that ends well.
Yeah, I guess that's a good lesson in, speak up or something when when you're not getting what you want.
Yeah, I mean he's a first time director, so
true.
He may not have an idea about like what information you need as assistant director. Although he's been on a lot of these episodes on the set, I feel like he should have some idea.
I mean, he might know how to like direct actors and stuff, but might not quite know like what guidance the rest of the crew needs from him.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just remember, like, I saw an interview with the guy who plays Martok, and he was, like, doing impressions of what Avery Brooks like in acting mode versus in directing mode. And, I mean, the gist of it is, like, in directing mode, he's, like, really quiet. Or I think that's what it was. In one, he's, like, really quiet, and the other, he's, like, really loud. I think when he acts, he's loud, or I don't know. I'll find that clip and put it in the thingy below.
But Brooks himself says that he enjoyed directing the episode, especially Colm Meaney and Fritz Weaver.
Oh, who is Fritz Weaver?
Fritz Weaver is the actor who portrayed Kovat.
Is he the lawyer?
Yeah, the lawyer.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, he was kind of getting into that role, the role of Weasley crappy lawyer.
Oh yeah, I mean he played the hell out of that.
Yeah.
I loved it. It was great.
Good job, Fritz Weaver. I applaud you.
Has that guy been in anything else I know? Let's find out. Fritz Weaver, what do you have on IMDb here? Stuff I've never heard of. 3 episodes of Law and Order as 3 different characters.
Sure.
2 episodes of The X-Files as Senator Albert Sorensen. I don't know who that
was. He? I think there was a couple of times where Mulder had like a senator that he was feeding information to or something. Maybe that's the...
what else? The Thomas Crown Affair as John Reynolds, which I don't know who that character was in that movie. It's been a while since I saw that. He hasn't really been in much else. I mean, like one-off appearances in lots of TV shows, which is kind of that's where you get people for DS9 is the people who just like hang out and do a bunch of shows.
Yep. And don't mind, they're hungry enough that you can put whatever makeup you want on them. And
yeah, it's all good.
So are you going to be a Cardassian? A Cardassa what? Just sit in that chair for 5 hours.
Oh, but this guy's been doing like 1-off and 2-offs on TV shows since like the 50s. So,
oh wow,
he's been a working actor out there. That's like Colomini like since Deep Space Nine is like he's one of those guys that you get to be like in your movie or in your TV show, just like as a little character part. Sometimes he gets a juicier bit.
I saw him in Con Air the other day, or when I was at the cabin a while ago. I was just watching a bunch of movies.
Oh yeah, he is in Con Air.
Yeah, he's the asshole he's like DEA guy.
Yeah, for some reason when you said that, I was like, "Do you mean Steve Buscemi?" Which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But that was my first thought.
So obviously, you're getting Colomini and Steve Buscemi confused.
It happens a lot. I know.
I can just imagine him on one of those like. Those collages or whatever that you see sometimes that are like actors that look like each other. There's like Colomini next to Steve Buscemi. So actors who get confused for each other all the time. So is there any other fun stuff?
Just that like this is one of the episodes that gets lumped into the annual tradition of like doing mean things to O'Brien.
Sure. We couldn't... I guess we can't count Whispers because that wasn't really O'Brien.
Right.
Although I mean... Yeah, seeing himself get killed probably wasn't super fun, but...
Yeah, getting captured and they did whatever they had to do to him to clone him or whatever.
Oh, yeah, didn't he have like a black eye at the end of that episode or something?
Might have.
So, yeah, that probably wasn't a fun time for him either. Poor O'Brien.
It calls it O'Brien Must Suffer episodes.
Nice. He must suffer for our sins. Okay. I think a highlight of the episode for me was Odo's willful ignoring of Cardassian trial procedures.
Yep, she's like, I like the second time. She's like, didn't I just explain to you that you're not allowed to talk? And he gives not one single fuck about that.
He's like, oh, I'm new here. It's my first day. Anyway, I'm going to cross-examine this witness. It's like, wait, no. Yeah, and my final note is it would be nice if maybe in this episode about like this horrible, dictatorship justice system, we could juxtapose it with the like a justice system governed by a free society. But instead we just have like this guy like getting detained, like getting sent to the probulator or whatever with like absolutely no due process. I guess that might have made the scope of the episode too wide or something for it to fit in a little 45-minute episode. But
they should have just done what they do on like other detective shows. It's like you walk up to him while he's having lunch at the Replomat and he's just taking a drink from a cup. And so you like take the cup and you're like, okay, DNA sample.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been cool.
Then they would have a reason to arrest him.
They should have definitely pizzazzed up that whole investigation story.
Odo wasn't there to investigate, though. He's the investigator.
That's true. They really needed Odo for that. So I guess they did the best they could.
I mean, Kira also, just from what we know of her, not a big fan of due process.
Right, yeah, exactly.
She doesn't have the patience for that kind of thing, so I'm not at all surprised.
Yeah, I mean, she grew up on occupied Bajor, so we'll give it a pass. She doesn't have, like, Odo's just absolute zeal for, like, you know, an Orwellian security state or whatever.
Yeah, but she's not there, but I think my favorite bit is Odo being like, I regret that I have no teeth to offer your Bureau of Identification.
Yeah.
And at that point, I'm thinking, like, they're like, oh, you won't like what happens if we find you in contempt. And I'm like, he's a shapeshifter. Yeah. He could, like, turn into goo and disappear and you would never find him.
It's like, did you arrest Odo? He transformed into a bird and flew away. And we never saw him again. Damn it. Okay, so ready to move into ratings then?
Yeah, sure.
All right, how would you rate this episode?
You know what? Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of the O'Brien must suffer genre of Star Trek episode because I like O'Brien and I don't like seeing him get shit on for no reason.
For sure.
So I think especially in some of the future episodes, that's going to come into play quite a bit because it'll be like, this is a really great episode, but I don't like it. I don't like to watch it because I don't like seeing what happens to O'Brien. Yeah. This one, not as much. Like, I don't feel like it's that mean to him. Like, yes, they capture him and they put him in this, like, dog and pony show trial, but it's not... he's fine in the end. Like, he went through a couple of days of unpleasantness and they took one of his teeth, which is pretty messed up. But beyond that, like, I feel like he got off kind of light compared to some of the things that will happen to him later. So,
or like compared to what happened to Picard that one time.
Yes, compared to what happened to Picard, exactly. It's not like they strung him up naked and left him hanging there overnight or whatever, which is what happened with Picard at the beginning of his interrogation.
They didn't make him eat rotten eggs or anything.
They didn't ask him how many lights there were,
right,
or anything like that.
There was only one light. It was just kind of moving back and forth.
The nozzle. So that being said, I like this episode pretty well. Okay. And I think it's gonna fall into it's gonna be like high lieutenant commander, low commander for me, somewhere in that area. Let me look at my list so far.
Okay.
I'm gonna call it lieutenant commander, and I'm gonna put it just under the circle.
Okay.
No, I'm lying. I'm gonna call it commander and put it just above the circle.
Okay. I'm not as up on it. I think it's below the line for me.
Oh, okay.
So the stuff I like is, I actually kind of like I don't like O'Brien suffering, but it gave him some good, like, some dramatic moments where you got to show off his acting talent.
Yeah, it really gave him some opportunities to shine. I do like that.
But I felt those moments were kind of few and far between. I thought, like I said, if you're going to do this thing about this horrible justice system, maybe be a little bit more conscientious about how you show, like, criminal procedure in more free areas. And I just, like, the investigation plot, I felt really lazy to me. In fact, the whole, like, what's really going on felt a little lazy to me.
Yeah, no, I see that.
It feels like another one of those plots that was run by stupid people. So, I think for me, I'm tempted to give it a lieutenant junior grade because I just never had one of those, but I think it's a pretty solid lieutenant for me.
Okay. So
it's definitely above Second Sight for me. It's definitely above Paradise. And, I'll put it above Rivals. So it'll be my highest lieutenant.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it's definitely not one of those episodes where I would, like, blame somebody for loving it, but... And I guess, like, another element I liked is just the ridiculous lawyer guy.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
See, I think that's the main thing about this, for me, is that... and not to say the lawyer guy specifically, but beyond the fact that, it lets O'Brien have, or Colomini have some acting bits, it we get some stuff with him and his wife, which is nice.
Sure.
But I think it's just the episode amuses me, like almost from start to finish, because you have like the comedy at the beginning with O'Brien, and then they try to get him to leave.
Yeah.
And then like the great stuff with Cisco and the lady that he's talking to.
Oh yeah.
And then you got the lawyer, the like, you know, the hyper chicken lawyer.
Sure.
And it's always amusing to me almost the whole way through, and I think that's what makes me like it.
That's true. I mean, and I liked that we got some non-annoying O'Brien and Keiko type stuff. Although they're like this thing where he was like trying to make out with her eyeballs or whatever was a little weird, but I'm sure that was just like a blocking issue on the set or whatever. It's like, okay, now you have to awkwardly lean over her sitting in this chair and like make out with her or whatever.
And Bashir manages to also not really be annoying. So and it's actually kind of nice to see him like standing up for the chief.
Sure.
And not being creepy or weird or annoying. So that was good too.
Although I think his like performance in that scene was a little kind of like forced and wooden. Kind of like the way people act when they're like trying to half-heartedly put on a show of something, but they're trying to hide something. So it was almost like, just like, Dr. Bashir, did you steal the weapons? Was kind of this weird vibe I got when I was watching it. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know.
Even when the mysterious guy shows up behind him, that scene is just... And that one I don't think was supposed to be funny, but it is so funny.
I was just like, this, like, there's nothing here that you would want. I was like, don't you have drugs? But whatever. Maybe people don't like drugs in the future. No, that's not true. As we learn on Picard. Well, I guess they only like drugs you can shoot into your eyeballs.
Yeah, you know, that's... you don't get needle marks from that.
Right. So... Yeah, I don't know. Just the episode didn't quite gel for me, is I guess the main thing. Although, even the premise, I don't hate that much. Although... Well, I do kind of hate it, actually. Like, I like that it's building on what we introduced earlier with Ducat.
Yeah.
But kind of like the whole Kafka-esque trial concept is kind of like really frustrating to me. Because I think we've all also been in kind of situations like that where nobody's listening to you and like you're trapped in this horrible like system that is like actively trying to ignore you or whatever.
What if they'd gone full on like Kafka's The Trial and like never revealed what O'Brien was being accused of?
Right. And then O'Brien gets executed at the end. I don't know what happens at the end of that story.
Yeah, no, I didn't read that much about that story, but
and then O'Brien gets executed at the end. Then it cuts to the real O'Brien. It turns out that other O'Brien was also a doppelganger.
It was a Federation like they found out that the Cardassians were going to run this like false flag operation, and so they were like triple crossing them by like slipping in a fake O'Brien to get captured.
Or what it was like an occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge situation where the fake O'Brien from Whispers like fantasized this whole thing in his dying moments. I don't know.
At the end, it turns out Q was behind it all.
Yep. I mean, how come they never hired us to work on Star Trek?
Because I was... when did this air?
1994.
So yeah, I was 9.
Anyway. Got any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
No, not really.
Yeah. We're right there. Right at the end.
Oh yeah. Next time is the final episode of the season where who knows, something big might happen.
The gym hater?
Although, okay.
The gym haters?
I do have to say that apparently, so after this point, before the next episode airs, trailers for the next episode start coming out. And apparently people freaked out.
Okay.
Because in the trailers for the next episode, there is a Galaxy-class starship exploding. And people are like, Oh
and
no!
It's right
like,
after All Good Things. Also,
yes, it's right after All Good Things. They're like, holy crap! Did they destroy the Enterprise on Deep Space Nine now that the show is over? How messed up is that?
It's like all the crew are dead.
That would be a bold move for Star Trek to have made.
Yep, that would have been pretty interesting.
Maybe they did. We'll see when we get to the next episode.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they did do that, but it wasn't like the main focus of the episode. It was just like it was kind of like just an afterthought in the teaser. But anyway, yeah. So I guess we'll call it there. If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Be sure to check out the description, where I occasionally put links to interesting things, or things that I think are interesting. I'm Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
Bye.
And remember, every once in a while, declare peace. It confuses the hell out of your enemies.